Okay, everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff, kind of in that nature. We're going to be obviously unscripted. We're here with the guys from Nodus. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Cullen. I am in charge of quality control, assembly. This guy's Wes.
I'm Wes. I do a little bit of everything else.
Cool. So as you guys know, if you're fans of the show, we've definitely reviewed our fair share of Noduses, and they're such a new brand. But I think that what they offer is really special, so I really want to touch base with these guys and help support them, because I think what they're doing is something that's really different than what's out there already, and I feel like it's something that a lot of people ask for when they're either on my channel in the comments section, or they're in a Facebook group, or on Watch You Seek. I feel like everybody's been wanting a brand to kind of come up, another Christopher Ward almost, if you will, in that what they're offering is different enough and high quality enough to where you don't necessarily have to be a watch geek to appreciate it, but if you are a watch geek, then you're really going to be into it. So why don't you guys just kind of share for you guys what your inspirations were as far as some of the brands that you guys enjoyed?
Well, it depends model to model. So for the first one, the obvious inspiration was the Blancpain backscap. Whereas for this one, our follow-up model, we looked at some vintage Gruins and Captain Cook. So every model has like a different reference, has different reference material. But for the most part, the direction that we're going in now, we're trying to sort of like do our own thing in terms of design, and we're really honing in on our design language now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to build on what Wes said, because we're going in the original direction, you might see like a few, I guess, nods to certain brands of the past, just like every other watch company would.
For sure.
But again, it's really we're trying to make our own design language and really have something that is uniquely Nodus, and not, oh, this is a homage to that or that.
Nice. Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people really key in on when they're looking at a watch, is they don't want it to be kind of mistaken for something else, but they do want it to carry that same kind of, that vibe overall. And I think, to me, that's what the real definition of doing an homage is paying respect and paying tribute to a particular model versus, being kind of, this is the cheaper version of that. And I feel like that's a very, obviously it's a successful business plan. You've seen tons of brands do that, and honestly, through the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of brands that kept the lights on by putting out sub-homages and, everything that looks somewhat like, a Patek. And there's been a lot of different designs that have been vanilla enough to where kind of the average casual watch wearer might not even realize why it looks familiar. But then I think a little bit, the enthusiasts have been a little bit more keen to it. I mean, obviously everybody loves Seiko, but let's face it, there's plenty of Seikos that are meant to look like something else, but be the Seiko version of it, right? So I don't think it's a huge thing. I think in watches especially, though, it has a bit of a stigma as far as kind of because of the knockoff industry, right? When cars have similar lines to each other, or a phone, right? Today they all look the same. Nobody bats an eye, right? They just care about which one has the best quality and is the best fit and the best price point for what they're looking for as far as their specs go. And I'd really love to see kind of the watch industry be a little bit more like that, and just be a little bit more open to good things, and not necessarily be so tied up in what does this look like, what does this remind me of. I think really what people are looking for is something that makes it feel good when they're on their wrist, makes them feel good. I know for me, obviously, like my wife, she has her shoes, she has her bags, but for guys, it's one of those things where it's like my watch, maybe my shoes, and like a pocket knife. But those are kind of the things that I feel like guys will express themselves as far as like their style goes. So
yeah, I think it's equal parts art and science when it comes to designing watches. And like you were saying, you distilled it down pretty well. One of the things that we try to do with our designs moving forward is, for the watch enthusiast that knows watches really well, they'd be able to be like, oh yeah, you're referencing this, that, and that. But for the average Joe, even a lot of enthusiasts that don't know about certain certain aspects of a watch, they might see it as a completely original design, when in reality that doesn't exist in any brand, big or small.
Oh yeah,
you know?
for sure. It's funny, I mean, like, even if I remember a couple years ago I went into an Abercrombie and they had this little field watch on a NATO, right? And people were like, oh, that's really in style, they like the way that looks, but they didn't realize
it's been around
everything
for
that's been around,
yeah.
right? Like, that is actually something, and for them they were just like, oh, this is something cool that'll go with, you know, my denim jacket or something like that, when in reality it's something that there's a whole lineage there that basically got to the point where, okay, hey, let's sell this and let's really market something like that, right, as an accessory, and
right.
I think that's where fashion brands, you know, love them or hate them, you kind of have to give them respect, because they're keeping watches on people's wrists, right, which is keeping people interested. People kind of start out with whatever fashionable, you know, department store thing, and then they kind of either they develop into something bigger, you know, they have a special date when they graduate, you know, they have their kids, stuff like that, and they kind of commemorate it by looking for that first real watch. And I feel like Nodus really fills that space, like, in a cool way, in that, like, I know tons of guys where they're like looking for like a groomsman gift, right? I want to give them something good, something high quality. I'm not trying to spend a bunch of money though, like, on the marketing, right? They want to spend money on the quality, and I think that's where Nodus really shines. Yeah,
I mean, the way I see it is sort of similar, where like Daniel Wellington and MVMT, like, they're humongous companies, and they filled a really I guess it was a pain point in the fashion industry, and it got people interested in watches again. But between that and like the next level up, there's like a huge gap, and that's where the micro-brand space is kind of important. And
for sure,
I think that's part of the reason why as a micro-brand we have a lot more to gain standing shoulder to shoulder with other micro-brands, and have, like, you know, rising tide raises all ships, as opposed to when you get to like the Rolex, Tag, Omega, like really big brand level, where it feels a lot more competitive, you know, in the saturated parts of the market. So when you go up, or when you go down to Daniel Wellington or MVMT or Linher or any of the other thousands of fashion brands, so yeah, that's why the micro brand space is very interesting, because it's not really competitive in that way.
Definitely, and I think the funny thing is that it's good for the consumer, because it's such a tight space. People want to keep offering more, and I can tell that with your guys' models, you guys always want to add more value. You know, obviously checking all the boxes. You got to have the sapphire, got to have some water resistance, got to, you know, everything's really well put together and really well finished. And it's something that I think, as far as somebody that's just coming to even check the boxes before they even pay attention to the design, you guys already have that, right? Versus, let's say, something from a more traditional brand like Seiko, where you kind of, there are going to be some trade-offs in the quality of the bracelets. You know, the crystals are mostly going to be Hardlex, which I'm not, you know, I don't have a huge problem with Hardlex crystals, but, you know, as somebody that's going to spend a little bit of money, I know I've been on the other side of, why doesn't Seiko, for $1,000 diver, why don't they put a sapphire on it, right? So I think that's really cool that you guys can offer something at, you know, half the price point even, and offer like an STP movement on the Trieste, and which I still have, and I love. Actually, it's funny, my younger brother has, like, he hits me up anytime I come visit him. He's just like, hey, he's like, I want that, like, you need to bring that over, I need to try that on. So it's tough, so it's definitely, you know, a very desirable piece. And I think when you have it in hand, you don't really need to know a lot about watches, you don't need to know a lot about brands to understand that it's quality in hand, right? Everybody has a phone, everybody, you know, puts on a pair of shoes. You know the difference between something that's quality and that's just like there to fill a space until it's worn out, right? And I think that there's a lot of people that might pick up a Timex, and although they have a great lineage, they understand that that watch has a shelf life, right? It's disposable to a certain point, which I think is something that you guys kind of address with starting with your baseline being a bit of a higher quality. It's something that can be worn for a long time, passed down, and I think, you know, for the casual watch collector, it's something that, you know, I think if everything goes the way you guys plan, you guys will expand and grow, and then these kind of initial models can, I think, really will be those cornerstones of the brand moving forward. So it's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for these early models, the way we see it, it's like it's a way for us to just learn a little bit more about how the market behaves and kind of the trends and what they want. And that's really how we move forward in terms of designing and picking out our specs and all that stuff. We go into the market, do things like this, go through comments. I read every comment on everything that's ever been posted about us.
That's
And
not a healthy thing, but
no, it's not healthy at all.
but it's very
I know.
helpful. It's very helpful. Yeah.
But yeah, like that's how we get the insights that we need to decide what the market is looking for. And yeah, that's pretty much our R&D right there.
Cool.
Yeah.
On the topic of like specs and features, in the micro-brand world, it's very hard to distinguish yourself just based off features and specs because everyone has sapphire.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone has water resistance. Everyone has that movement, this movement. So what it really boils down to is differentiating yourself in other aspects. For example, whether it's design, which I think is the most important part in distinguishing brands, and the second part is just branding itself, which involves a lot of things, whether it's the way you present how you present your watches through social media. For us, it's like we also do our own assembly here in Southern California, which is a big differentiating aspect of our brand compared to other micro brands
Definitely.
who are all assembled in Asia, and then a lot of them are actually packaged there too and just shipped off. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I think the consumer, it's good for the consumer to know like where these watches have been, because at the end of the day they're paying money for it. And a lot of we find that our customers, we get emails daily about like they're just saying they appreciate what we do and how it's different from other people. And I think more brands should like take lead or take follow actually.
Yeah.
In terms of bringing more of this watchmaking outside of Asia and more into other parts of the world.
For sure, yeah. I think for me that was one of my biggest selling points on your guys' brand. Once I saw that things were regulated in-house and assembled here in the States. Obviously, I'm in Southern California, so it's even more of a bonus for me that it's so close by. But I mean, it just shows that there's more than just a catalog design, right? Because there's tons of people that are in design and that have a good eye. They know what looks good, but to me, when you cross that line into there's a passion for watchmaking and the mechanics of it, right? That really ties into a mechanical wristwatch, because there's plenty of people that a quartz watch, it tells the time, it's the same. They pull out their phone, it's the same thing, right? So why spend money on a watch like this? So when you're buying a mechanical watch, it is a luxury to wear a wristwatch, let alone a mechanical one. So I think having that shared passion definitely makes you feel a little bit more connected with brands. And I think for the ones that I really have enjoyed and supported, that's been something that they've all kind of really adopted as far as being a part of the watchmaking and not just the watch selling. Because it's really, if you have the capital, it's not the hardest thing to kind of start your own thing. You can go on Kickstarter. There's a million watch brands, failed watch brands, successful watch brands. They go on to Kickstarter, and they can just tailor to what people want. Aesthetically sell it, but I think what keeps the longevity is keeping people really involved, right? And paying attention to the feedback, good and bad, and bringing something special. So when you guys first released the Trius, for example, which I really enjoyed, and it did have some parallels definitely to the Bath Escape, but I felt it was different enough, and honestly there wasn't anything out there that was even close to that kind of look, which is funny considering that Blancpain is kind of like the originator, right, of the dive watch and that whole architecture. I really enjoyed it, but as far as some of the feedback that you guys received that kind of led you to future models, can you maybe share a little bit about that?
Well, there are definitely the naysayers, and I think with any new brand, regardless of design, there are always going to be people like, they're a new brand, I'm not going to invest in their product. So that was definitely an uphill battle. But in regards to the actual design, there were people that called it an homage or a blatant ripoff, and then they would go on Alibaba, share a link of an actual ripoff of the Blancpain. That's pretty much cut and paste one for one, which is not what the Trius is.
Oh yeah.
And when I see someone reply like that, either to myself or to someone that's like that, that I have that watch, it's not a ripoff, I've held both, it's not a ripoff. When I see that kind of response, I'm just like, we're not even having the same conversation anymore.
Yeah, definitely. Those
aren't the type of people we want our products to go towards anyways. Like, that's not our market. Our market it's really for enthusiasts. That's really what we care about, getting close to the community and the enthusiasts that really, really care about the watch and the brand and all the everything that goes into it.
For sure, yeah. There's definitely a lot of internet warriors out there that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you deal with it all the time.
Oh yeah, it can be a tough place, but you know, it's one of those things where you just have to kind of, you know, put your energy into the people that give you positive feedback, and then the ones that kind of are naysayers, either you can win them over, or if you kind of know that they're not here to be won over, then there's really no point.
The trolls.
Yeah, they're just there to be the know-it-all and drop the knowledge and, you know, do whatever they're gonna do. But I feel like when I'm searching for something, you know, when I search on YouTube especially, I think YouTube's the most used search engine. So if anybody's looking for anything, they're looking for a video of it. When I search, it's normally because there's something that I want. You know, I'm not looking for a reason to say no, right? Like, if I wanted that, I could just open up my wallet and find, you know, tons of reasons to say no to something. But I think really, when you kind of do the trail and you're looking for something you're interested in, you kind of want to know more about it. You want to know some more of the positives, some more of the compromises, and figure out if it's really worth it for you. So, I mean, I look at it always from, you know, a positive perspective, in that people are kind of looking at what I'm presenting, and they're, you know, it's a fine balance, right? Because not every model I've reviewed has been the watch for me, right? I still have tons of watches. I haven't sold them all and just kept one model. But, you know, I try to be fair and kind of present everything in what I like about the watches. And, you know, and I think a brand like Nodus, they give you a lot to like. And, you know, I definitely can appreciate that. And, yeah, why don't we go ahead and switch perspectives and take a look at, you know, what we have on the table here today and do a couple of wristwatch checks. All right, guys, let's see what we have in the watch roll today, kind of as far as, you know, the evolution of the brand and, you know, where you guys are going, where you guys have been, and what's next.
All right, so this was actually our first model. It's since been retired because, you know,
moving forward
with new stuff. So this is our first design. As you can see,
this is the Trius that we were talking about earlier.
You can see like the small indices with the spaced out dial.
Yeah. It has a lot of breathing space, and one of the things that really impressed me about this model is that with all that space, honestly, I found even on, you know, relatively expensive Swatch Group watches, a speck of dust, you know, or two, or a smudge on an indice or a hand. And one of the nice things I found from this watch was, I mean, I got in there and there's so much room for error, and it was like pulled off. You know, like it was just a super clean. I want to say that was probably like, I probably said the word clean 20 times in the review, just because I was so like just enamored with how much space there was on the dial, but how, you know, it was just executed really, really, really well. So I was really
I have to say,
excited about that.
Cullen is quite obsessive about that kind of stuff. Dust on the dial, specs, you know, smudges.
Nice.
This is our second model released just a few months ago. It's the Retrospect. So it's got that inward sloping bezel with the high dome crystal.
Nice.
So reminiscent of early divers with that inward sloping bezel. It's on this really cool strap actually. It doesn't come with this, but it's actually a new strap from that's pretty
Watch Steward.
Yeah, where's the see that? The little plug.
Go ahead and put the hand behind so it can focus. Oh, cool. Yeah. Definitely a great look.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen this on Instagram. Maybe.
I think I have,
Yeah, it's like a different take on Erica's original, the Marie Nationale straps.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's another great space in that micro-brand watches have really opened up the doors for, is like straps now to come out and do really exciting things and come out with stuff that's more premium. You know, I think at one point people were like, if it's not an alligator strap, I'm not going to spend, you know, any money on it. But now people are spending, you know, upwards of 40, 50, 60 bucks on nylon straps and webbed straps. So I think that's really cool. And it's not just, you know, a Horween leather game anymore where it's all based on the material. I think now you're actually getting a lot of quality that's based purely on the design as well as the finishing, which ties into it.
All right here is the Avalon. This is a very early prototype. I'm sure if you guys follow Nodus, then you've seen that we've teased this one quite a bit. We're aiming to get this out by the end of the year, but it's as you can see, it's like just a hardcore, you know, no frills dive watch.
Yeah, I really love the look. I think it's funny. It's one of those things where you hear so often like nobody can do affordable finishing like Seiko, And then you kind of have now brands and from guys that, you know, kind of grew up on Seiko are offering things that are, to me, an improvement over their price point and kind of the value and bang per buck ratio now. And then I think, you know, obviously pay some pretty clear design cues and design language to that, you know, that black and steel Seiko diver, the turtles from the past, you know, a couple hints of sumo in that case finishing. And I think it's the nice thing is now for kind of today's enthusiasts, you actually do get a pretty good idea of you know, what people can do, because as somebody who's into Seiko mods, you know, I felt like you buy a Seiko and it's only like a couple 3, 4, 5 changes away from being the perfect watch, right? Seiko, they're kind of notorious for not wanting to build a one watch. They want to build, you know, 20 watches that you all need to own for different reasons and different occasions, and they've been really successful with that. But I think what's cool is when you're a smaller brand, you can actually refine your line a little bit and kind of distill down some of those ideas and offer something that can be more versatile and more of a, you know, quote unquote one watch versus something that, you know, 5 different things for 5 different days of the work week. So I think that's really cool. As far as what's on your guys' wrist today, can I?
It's not a Nodus, but this is just it's a 6105 8110 Seiko.
That's definitely an enthusiast piece there, even with the railroad track rubber.
Yeah, it's got the Uncle Seiko strap. What's on your wrist? I want to talk about what's on your wrist.
All right,
it's really
so
nice.
on my wrist, real channel favorite, obviously, if I can get it to focus there. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so it's the Manta Triumph, and it's something that I'm really was a big fan of the brand when they came out. And actually, let me actually pop it off the wrist so we can get it in hand here. Do you want to grab it? Cool. So yeah, so let me know your thoughts on the Triumph.
And the Seiko.
And the Seiko, of course.
All right.
So I know for me, one of the things I really loved about the Manta brand is that they were really ambitious with kind of what they came to offer to the market. And you know, as far as the quality from a new brand, they weren't afraid to say that, hey, we're going after that kind of luxury market and we're bringing something like that. And obviously they faced a lot of pitfalls, but I feel like through their design and their marketing and kind of their just overall feel for the brand and what they've presented, they've been able to really grow that out, which I think is really kind of an unexpected thing in this industry, because you find that there's not much of, I would say, a middle class when it comes to collectors. You're either kind of that everyday affordable wear, or you're into some of the high-end stuff, and then there's the transitional guy who's I feel like that's kind of where I am in my collecting, is that I'm very in a transition from, I really kind of want something with a little bit more longevity, willing to put in a bigger investment for something that's going to give me a bigger return, as far as, you know, on the wrist and the way I feel and in the quality, and something that, you know, as somebody with kids, that I could maybe pass down one day.
Yeah, we're both big fans of Manta. Yeah, we love all micro brands, or not all, most. We're fans of Manta. You know, some of the other big guys like Avig and Halios, Mark II. You know, we at some point or another, we've had their pieces come to our own personal collections. I'm actually saving up right now for a green dial Manta Triumph.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I feel like green dials right now are kind of they're the dark horse. How have you guys felt about that ballistic green, the sales and the interest from on your side with the new Contrail?
It's been better than we expected.
We were very nervous about it actually, because green it wasn't the most common color up until the new Marine Master came out, I guess.
Oh yeah.
I think that sort of like ushered in the year of the green watch. But yeah, we were very nervous for it, but sales have been way better than we expected for the green one in particular.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think it'd be a good idea to like superimpose like a Contrail, which is our next upcoming watch that's going to go on sale in
currently
October.
up for pre-order.
Cool.
Obviously, Mark did a review on it, so
yeah, I'll leave a link in the bottom, and then I'll, you know, superimpose a couple shots. And why don't you guys just tell me kind of what your inspirations were for the Contrail, and kind of what inspired you, and then kind of what did you want to bring and add to that type of market? Because I feel like it's a really cool market. It's that kind of that everyday, everywhere watch that can be taken with you and still really fit the bill.
Yeah, I think that was one of the models where you really need to be an enthusiast and really kind of understand what watches are out there. Because the main inspiration was the 104, Zen 104. I don't think you'd see that immediately, right?
No.
I don't see it immediately. But we basically set out to try to perfect the sport watch case.
Cool. Yeah, I think the 104 is definitely super versatile, right? Like everybody, it's an aviation watch, it's a dive watch, it's not a trainman's watch.
No. But also we travel a lot for work, so we're always in between, the West Coast, United States, and then Asia. So we always need some type of GMT function on our watch, and which is why we put the 12-hour bezel onto the Contrail.
Yeah.
And I went traveling. I used it for the first time just like a few weeks ago, and it was the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
It's just so convenient to have that function on your watch.
Nice.
And then obviously it's water resistant, so it can take a beating from everyday use. So, it's just a great way to make the perfect everyday traveler's watch. There's a fixed bezel version in case you don't want the rotating bezel.
Easier to dress up for fancier events.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. I really enjoyed the Contrail, and what I liked is that it gave you an option, right? And that's one of the things that you guys have always been really great at. I think even with the Trius, there were so many different bezel options, bracelet strap options, even movement options, date, no date. So I think that's one of the things that's really unique about Micro-brands is they can take something, put it out there that's super versatile, but you can still tailor it a little bit and really make it to one of those things. I know people who can't live without a date function, and I know some people who can't stand it, right? If it's not at the 6 o'clock or framed at the 3, everybody has their own tastes, and they're willing to throw a complete watch away based on those tastes. So
I found that in this little micro-brand market, that's kind of the secret to success. It's having variations and options for the customers. You can't really see that kind of variation in the bigger brands. You do see that in like the lower end, like Daniel Wellington, MVMT fashion watches, but that kind of consumer demand bled over into the micro-brand world where we do need to offer these options, all these variations for people.
Cool.
Yeah.
Out of the two models, fixed bezel and the 12-hour bezel, which would you guys say are your picks, for your wrists?
We were just talking about this yesterday, actually.
Mine's easy. Mine's going to be the Laguna Sand with the 12-hour.
Nice.
That's the beige dial with the sandpaper texture.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That's a really great look to it.
Yeah.
If I had to choose the fixed bezel, it'd definitely be the mute gray. It's just such a subtle, low-key color, but in the sunlight it just looks so good. It's just
definitely.
It's a very unique gray shade of gray, so I think that would be my pick.
So when you guys are designing, how much does color play come into your guys' minds? I know it's something that's huge, obviously, for people when they're modifying their cars, what rims, what brakes, everything as far as the colors and how everything works out. I think it's similar as well when you're looking at the dial of a watch is, how much does that color play come into your guys' mind when it comes to the way you're gonna do the font on the dial and as far as your branding goes with the Nodus, the logo as well?
Well, two brands that really showed me that you can do something cool with colors. One is Halios from Vancouver. The other one is Fair from the UK, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Is that where it is? And they're doing really cool stuff with colors. And that it's not that we're like trying to replicate it, but it gave us the affordance to try new things. So Laguna Sand, for example, that's not really a very common dial color, right? Would you say? And it was sort of the reason why we were nervous about it, is because it hasn't been done before, but because of how unique it is. I guess that's what
I think
people,
the contrast on that is just killer.
Yeah. So basically, it's a lot of experimentation, really. Just try a bunch of different things and then hold on to the ones that work and let go of the ugly ones. Yeah.
Do you guys post in any particular forums when you guys are kind of in your design process and look for feedback, or you guys mostly you kind of want to get things to about 90% of where it's at and then unveil it for some feedback, or do you guys pretty much just go all in?
Well, we finalize the design, like the basic design, always.
It's always in-house first.
Yeah.
Then we actually have our insiders group of.
It's basically a private Facebook group with like 30-40 people. We are gonna start growing it a little bit more as the company grows, so we get a little bit more feedback. But that's usually where we bounce ideas around and figure out what final colors we want. and it consists of early customers, some of the early adopters that bought into our brand really early on, really supported us from the beginning. And we felt like, this is our brand, and it's something that it's also our livelihood. But
train. You want to go down the coast in a train? It's there.
Where was I? I guess we're steering the ship, but it's not just for us. We're making these watches ultimately for you guys, for consumers, for the market. And the only way we can really do that is if we know what they're looking for. So getting that kind of feedback, I mean, it's why I'm gonna go on this YouTube video as soon as it's live and just look at every single one of the comments, right? I might not reply all of them or any of them, but I'm gonna be reading everything because we need that kind of feedback.
Nice.
Yeah, so the inside circle is basically that's the purpose that it serves.
All right, well, I think your guys' models and your brand really give a very clear message, you know, even in just the name Nodus, right? And a node and the meeting of 2 points and everything. As far as what you guys as individuals, what you would like to, a message you'd like to send to, you know, any customers that are out there or any possible, you know, prospective buyers in the future, what would kind of your messages to them be?
Well, actually, we just want to say thank you to all those supporters for the past, I guess, 15, 16 months. I guess it's our first real public, like, on video thank you to everyone. You know, because
we wouldn't be here without you guys.
And if it wasn't for the success of our first model, we wouldn't have our second model or third model or even fourth model. So, you know, having your support, hearing your feedback, you know, we're constantly improving, and that's not possible without you guys. So thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, well, you know, this is what we want to do. We want to work together. We're old pals from childhood, and again, without you guys, without your support and your feedback and all that, you know, we wouldn't be able to continue doing this. But like Cullen said, after seeing the success of the first one and the retrospect, like, now we know that we can do this. And yeah, it's thanks to you guys.
All right, awesome. All right, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.